Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're doing great on this Friday afternoon. And thank you for joining me. My name is Laura Wilkerson with Dementia Care Academy. Today, we are going to talk about Sundowning Syndrome. And if you have a person with dementia, I know that this is a question that always comes up, and it actually just came up last night. So, what is Sundowning Syndrome really look like? So, Sundowning Syndrome and your person with dementia, typically right around that evening hour as the sun starts to set, your person may experience one of many symptoms. And we're going to discuss some of those here shortly. But your person may start to become agitated, or there might be a change in behavior that you're noticing that is consistent over time, day after day, as that sun starts to set. It may actually even happen at different times. Here we change, we spring ahead and we fall back. So you may notice that your person is adjusting to the time change. And in my medical practice, we always tell people, hey, look, when that time change happens, be ready, because people are going to experience their symptoms a little bit earlier or a little bit later. And so we can adjust ourselves and our schedules based on them. So how do you tell the difference between sundowning and maybe a urinary tract infection in your person? That's a really common question that gets asked. So if the symptoms, if the behaviors happen and they happen out of the blue and they're acute in a short amount of time frame, not like acute behavior, but acute meaning in a short amount of time, like they happened overnight and your person is experiencing those. And as they go to bed and wake up in the morning, those symptoms don't go away, well, then probably likely not sundowning syndrome. And you may want to take your person to the doctor to check to see if they have a urinary tract infection, or reach out and see if you can drop a specimen off at the lab and see if maybe there's something else going on with your person. So if the symptoms happened acutely, you can pretty much assure that it's not sundowning. And if they happen and then maybe there's like 2 or 3 weeks in between, I would probably say not so likely to be sundowning syndrome, but it might be something else. So what are the symptoms that you can look for in your person when you suspect that they might have sundowning syndrome? So number one is they have a sense of distorted reality. They might be fine or they're normal during the day, but as that sun starts to set, you might see that they start talking about things that are not there. They might see people, they might see aliens, little small aliens. Your animals might start talking to them, or stuffed animals might start talking to them. And here's what I have to say about that. If it's not bothersome to your person, this reality that they're living in, then you shouldn't let it bother you either. Don't try to go in there and tell them, hey, look, there's no green people running around your room, or no, look, and plop yourself down in the chair that they say that there's somebody sitting in. Because if you do that, and that's somebody that they are fond of, and you go sit on them, that is going to cause more anxiety and distress. And remember, when you have a person with dementia, it is their brain that's affected. And so if you're telling them, or if you're trying to argue with them and tell them that that person isn't there, or that their reality isn't real, their brain is very much perceiving that that is a real event for them. So in my opinion, just go with it, as long as it's not bothersome. Now, if they're seeing something that is disturbing, if they're seeing somebody being murdered or burning children, well, then that's a problem, and you might need to treat those behaviors after you've ruled out organic causes. So just be cautious too what your person is watching, like right before bedtime or right before their time that they start to become that sundowning symptom. Because if they're watching, I don't know, Law and Order, and it just so happens to be about taking small children, well, then that's going to be stuck in the back of their mind. So just be cognizant of what you've got going on the television, because they may, in turn, take on some of that and make it their reality. So another thing that you can look for is restlessness. Does your person become restless right as that sun's starting to set? Restlessness can be fidgeting. It can be pill rolling the fingers. It can be moving around in the chair if your person is more chair bound, or if they are bed bound, their legs or upper body could be moving. They just might not be able to sit still. Leg tapping, hand tapping, lots of those things. So if you notice that your person is becoming restless, maybe giving them something to do with their hands, or, giving them a blanket over their legs might be helpful. I've heard a lot of people who tell me that the weighted blankets are really helpful in their person. Just remember not to get that blanket too heavy. Yelling. Yelling can also be a sign of sundowning. Now, really listen to your person when they're yelling, because some people can yell because they're angry, and then there's other people who can talk really loud to be heard. So listen to the words that your person is using. If your person is using words that string together and make sense, they might just be telling you that they'd like something to drink, but they just might be using their louder voice because something in their brain is telling them that they need to speak loudly to you. So yelling can be a sign of sundowning. General irritability. Is your person get irritable as the sun starts to set? Think about that. If there's a change in behavior and they become really super grumpy and they're really short with you, or their mood or behaviors have changed. Suspiciousness, that is another one that I see a lot. So, your person may be doing fine, and then all of a sudden, something has changed organically, or they're starting to progress with their through their process of their journey through dementia, and they become suspicious. You might have been able to give them their 6 o'clock meds before, but all of a sudden you go to give them their 6 o'clock meds that they've taken the same meds, there's the same amount of pills, the same color, the same numbers, and all of a sudden they are really super suspicious and accuse you of poisoning them. Hey, Sonia. Yes, it can be shared. You can share it now, and you can share it when we're all done. So yes, thank you for asking, and it's good to see you back. So suspiciousness, like I said, your person can become suspicious of the fact that you might be poisoning them, the fact that you may be putting poison into their food. That's another big one. For those of you that are caring for your spouse, you might leave the room for a few minutes to use the restroom, or you might go get laundry, or maybe if your person is high functioning, you leave for a little bit and you come back from the grocery store or wherever you might go, and your person suddenly accuses you of having an extramarital affair. Those are things that can definitely happen. My suggestion is that for the smaller things, such as you're poisoning me, you can point out the fact that these are the same medications if they're willing to listen. If they're not willing to listen and they've got their hand up and they seem like they might get a little bit on the combative side, by all means, listen to what they're telling you, because they're going to start yelling. Listen to the words they use and back up. Get out of their arm's reach. Especially for female caregivers that take care of male caregivers, they are still stronger than you. They might not look like it, but they are. And one punch across the face can knock you over and knock you out, and then leaving your person unattended. So just be really cautious when your person becomes suspicious of your activities. Hallucinations is another big one that kind of goes along the same lines as distorted reality. But those hallucinations are things that they believe that are really, right there and with them. Again, they can sometimes be comforting hallucinations, such as seeing a dead loved one. They can be harmful hallucinations, such as there's a burglar trying to break inside the house because maybe the wind is blowing and they're seeing the shadows of the trees. So just make sure you keep the room well lit and watch your outside lighting. If you've got a motion light on the outside of your house and it happens to be at their bedroom, disconnect that stinking motion light, because that is going to cause them a lot of angst and anxiety. Confusion, your person can definitely become more confused as the daylight dwindles and that nighttime comes. So just try to reorient them back. Mood swings, again, your person can be happy one minute, they can be sad the next, and then the next minute they're crying and full in tears, but they really don't know why they're upset and they're crying, because they know that they were happy just a few minutes ago, or it might be vice versa. But watch for mood swings. Fear, that's another good one. It's another good symptom of sundowning. Your person can start to become fearful of the night hours. So if you notice that typically happens right before it gets dark, make a mental note to yourself that is happening. Your person may become anxious. Oftentimes, I think that we as caregivers can confuse stress, which is an environmental stimuli, where it takes us out of our comfort zone, and anxiety. Anxiety is like an actual diagnosis, but it can also be pure dread or panic that your person feels regarding something. You might not be able to figure out what that something is right away, but if you pay attention to your person's signs or symptoms, maybe you go to get them up at a certain time every night to make sure that they're toileted or that they're clean, and your person's behaviors change. Well, change the routine. Change that routine to go around what your person is telling you that they want to do. I mean, maybe you want to get them in the bath right then, but if they're fearful and dreadful and panicked, it's not the time to do it. Do it later, or let them be stinky for a night. What is that going to matter, unless you've got something at 7:00 in the morning that you need to take them to? As long as they're not super malodorous, then just let them be for the night. Or wash them up with a washcloth and the first thing in the morning. Pacing and wandering, that can be a big one. Your person starts pacing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And not only can that be wearing on them, but it can be, wearing on you as well. Pacing is okay as long as you can get your person to sit down and maybe eat a meal, have a drink, let them pace for a while. Eventually they'll tire out. Don't try to stop them. Don't try to grab them by the arm and lead them someplace else. Just let them pace it out. Those of you who work in assisted living environments, memory care units, let that person, if you've got like the perfect square, your building set up as a perfect square, let them pace. If they continue to pace, make sure you've got finger foods available for them so that they can grab that sandwich or that, granola bar or whatever it is, that they can grab that as they're making their rounds around the building. And make sure they stay hydrated, because they will burn calories and they will even maybe sweat a little bit with that. So make sure you're keeping them hydrated. Wandering, it's okay again too. That's another sign of sundowning. Your person may decide to wander around the house, or if your backyard is safe and it's not 10 degrees out there, then it's okay to let your person wander, but you need to keep an eye on them, because if you let them go in the backyard because you've got it fenced in and it's safe, you're just going to want to make sure that they don't fall, trip, or that something bad happens while they're out there. So those, I think, are the most drastic ones that you might notice in your person. I don't know if any of you watching have noticed something else that you may have noticed in your person. If you're watching the replay and your person is somebody who has experienced or is experiencing sundowning, maybe drop that in the comments below, because we have to remember that when we meet one person with dementia, we've met one person with dementia, and we can all sort of learn from each other. So if somebody has experienced something that I haven't said, share it, because we can all learn from that. And we might not think of something, like I never really thought of fatigue as being a symptom of sundowning, but somebody I met recently said every time, that it gets close to dinner time, her mom literally just kind of shuts off. She'll be talking away, and all of a sudden she'll look at her and she's almost, like narcolepsy, has fallen off into a deep sleep. I don't necessarily know that she's really sleeping as much as maybe she needs a decrease in stimulation and she needs to turn herself off for a few minutes. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining. It's nice to see you today. You're in nice sunny Florida, and we're sitting here in very freezing cold Michigan, so I'm a little bit jelly of your weather. We're just talking about sundowning and what that looks like. So we talked about the signs and symptoms, and I've developed an acronym for those of you out there who have people with Sundowning Syndrome that can sort of help you remember, how are we going to make this better? Or what are some of the things that we can do to make our person feel more comfortable? And I call it DRIVE. So DRIVE, what does that stand for? Well, D, distract. Distract your person. If your person is feeling anxious, or they're pacing and they're wandering, or they're feeling suspicious or irritable, or they're yelling or restless, maybe giving them something to do to distract them from what they're feeling right then and right there. If your person is somebody who can be tasked, like you can give them something to do, or if you are a caregiver in an assisted living facility, well, and you've got people who are experiencing sundowning, maybe task them to do something. Go grab a load of towels, take those towels out and dump them on the table, and see if your ladies will fold them or your guys will fold them. Guys probably won't so much, but your ladies might fold them. If they do it really super quickly and you don't have anything else for them to do, well, then take the basket away, mess it all up, and bring it back and dump it back on that table, and tell them that you've got another load for them to do until they won't do that task anymore. And then you may need to distract them with something else. R, reassure them. Reassure your person that they are safe, that they are okay. You might not be able to reassure them into your reality, which you really shouldn't try and do anyway, because remember, we want to bring ourselves to their level, not try to bring them up to ours, because it just won't happen, folks. We got to remember that. But reassure them that they're safe, that they're okay, that you love them if you do, or that you care for them if you're a caregiver. I care for you. You're in a safe place. You're comfortable. Would you like anything? Is there anything that I can get for you? Which leads to the I, which is interact. Interact with your person. The more you interact with your person, the more you're going to get to know them, which is especially important if you're a caregiver in an assisted living facility. You didn't spend the last 40 years with this person. They may be somebody new that's moved in. So the more you interact with them on a day-to-day basis, the more you're going to get to know a little bit about them. Pam says that warm towels work well. Where are you putting those towels, Pam? Are you putting them like on their neck, on their chest, maybe on their legs? I think if you put a nice warm towel on somebody's lap, that might cause them to urinate a little bit, but maybe not. Or are you using it like on the inner wrist and hands? Let us know where you're using those, because that's a really good tip. I wonder if using like a heating pad might work the same. I would see how that could provide a comforting feeling. I know I like to use my heating pad and my electric blankets at night when I'm watching TV or when I'm doing my charting. So you've got distract, you've got reassure, you've got interact. So you're interacting with your loved one, your person you're caring for. And then V is validate. Validate your person and let them know, again, if they're seeing things that aren't anxious to them, if they're seeing, people or events or sites or things that are happening in their mind, or they're reliving an experience, validate that experience for them. Please don't try to tell them that that doesn't exist, that that's not happening. Giving them validity helps reassure them that they are okay and that things are going all right, and that maybe that they're not crazy, for a lack of a better word. I mean, I really wouldn't want you to tell them, oh my gosh, you're so crazy, and tell them that they're insane for thinking the thoughts that they think, but providing them some validation. And then E, empathy. Empathy for yourself, empathy for them, because what they're going through, they don't understand that what they're seeing, hearing, tasting, what they're accusing you of, or any of those other thoughts is not really happening. So they truly believe that's the situation. So providing a little bit of empathy, and again, like I said, providing empathy to yourself, because you're doing it every day, but giving them some empathy as well. So distract, reassure, interact, validate, and provide some empathy. Those are 5 things that I have for you when you're dealing with your person who has Sundowning Syndrome. If you, like I said, if you've got any more symptoms that you think fall underneath something that your person has experienced, please share, because we're all going to learn. Let's see what. Folding, also holding warm things in their hands. Yes, I completely agree. I have tasked many patients when I've been in a facility and they're anxious, or they're wandering, or they want to go home and leave. That's a big one. Kind of for me falls along that irritable line. Not only does it just happen, at night for some people, but it can happen during the day for them, where they get really super irritable and they're looking at their watch, or maybe they've got a bag packed or a suitcase packed. I know many caregivers experience that, where they are, constantly dealing with somebody packing their stuff and going to the door and saying, it's time for me to go home. I need to get home to my mom, or maybe my kids. Well, maybe allowing them to fold those towels. Maybe the warmth on their hands feels good. Maybe the comfort of doing something familiar feels good. But whatever we can do that focuses on their abilities and not their disabilities. Caregivers, when you're passing along report to your next shift, focus on the things that they can do. Mrs. Smith in room 1 was able to fold some towels. And I noticed that when she did fold those towels, not only did it help with her confusion, but it distracted her and brought her back down into this place where she was comfortable again, and she was pleasant, and we could redirect her. And believe it or not, we actually got her to eat today. And then after we got her to eat today, she decided that maybe her shirt was dirty. And because her shirt was dirty, she decided she finally needed to bathe. All of those things can kind of go hand in hand, but you really have to interact with your person and know who they are. Distract, reassure, interact, validate, and empathy. Try those things out. Let me know how they're working for you. Again, if you've got something that you think is going to work for someone else, please share it below. Share your tips, share your tricks, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great weekend.